Hey guys, Aaron Schober and Josh Lucas from Sword, Carolina. We are coming straight back from Houston. We were at the Purple Heart Open last weekend, which is why you didn't get a technique video. We got to meet a lot of you guys there, so it was a great time. But we are back in-house now, coming up with the follow-up video to the slicing from last week. So we're going to be doing the Hände, drücken, and then also a similar technique in our mind, which is the Schnappen. So once again, we're taking a very simplistic approach to this from the Codex Dobringer. If you look at the Ringek and the von Danzig manuscripts, you start to see a little more variety. So we encourage you to look across multiple treatises to get a more comprehensive view of what we're doing. But the Hände drücken, or pressing the hands, we're really looking at this starting with an Unterschnitt. So if you remember from the previous video, if Josh's hands are quite high, I can come underneath his hands and do a slice here. What we did before was actually slicing the strong and the cross guard of my sword into him and pressing his arms out to the side. Another option that we have with pressing the hands is if he goes up very high, I can actually start on the strong of my sword here, but I can actually press my point vertical, slice up on his arms. Once my sword goes vertical, I can actually do a slice from above on top of his arms. And so we are converting, we're going around his arms. So I'm starting with an Unterschnitt. So once again, his arms are very high. I wouldn't do this if his hands were low. I wouldn't try to do this technique. But if his hands are high, I can do the Unterschnitt, pressing my strong in, pressing my point up, and then the Oberschnitt on top of his arms. This is doing a really good job of controlling his arms the whole time and probably damaging him unless he's wearing some thick clothing, but it's also pulling me back to a good position to do a follow-up attack, for instance, a thrust. So done at speed, this is very powerful. We've actually done this outdoors, following through with the Oberschnitt, where it actually throws the other person's sword into the ground and sticks there, which is pretty effective if you're not the guy with the sword in the ground.
We were like, hey, it works.
We were like, hey, it works. And like, imagine that. So it's always nice to go through the manuscripts when you're doing something for the first time and it works. Get that nice aha moment, like, hey, I can do it. So another technique that we're covering from the slicing is the Schnappen. So the Schnappen comes from the slice. We can even set this up from our Unterschnitt. So if you remember in the last video, come up here, I can slice under his arms, press his arms out to the side. Now from here, one thing I can do is I can actually thrust my pommel over his arm or under my own forearm to cut him in the head. So in this case, as we're very close together, I'm going to end up hitting him with the strong of my sword. Where you often see the Schnappen from is if he's bound over my sword. So let's say I came in with an Unterhau, he's bound over my sword, so I'm actually going to slice against his sword. I'm going to slice the strong, my cross guard toward his sword, thrust my pommel over his arm, which is going to bring my blade into his head. But
somewhat of a snapping motion.
And somewhat of a snapping motion, which is kind of, Schnappen is one of the techniques that's most fun to say. So, but this you can extrapolate into different ranges as well. If Josh is fighting further out from a long point, I want to be able to close in and keep his sword on line. I may close in with a slice to his sword, and now I can close in distance to hit him better. So all related to the slicing, but there's a lot more you can do with it. Thanks for watching our video, guys, on the Hände, drücken and the Schnappen. So we are nearing the end of the manuscript, but we have a lot more planned for you. We enjoy making these videos for you, and thank you so much for watching, for subscribing to the channel, and we will come at you again very soon.